everyone, and welcome. Welcome to episode 25 of the Mind and Muse Crafts podcast. This is Caroline, your host, and as always, I am recording at my home that is on the western side of the island of Puerto Rico here in the Caribbean, and it is starting to be a sunny day, but we've been having a lot of rain lately, so I know that all this sun is just it's not going to be here for long. So I have changed my typical recording spot because I wanted to share something new and special with you today. So I really need to take advantage of the light that is coming in through the window because this is not the brightest corner in my house. But anyway, hello, and how are you? I hope these past few weeks you have had time to get a little bit of crafting in, and that time you have spent crafting has made your light harder and has made you happier. It has for me, I can tell you that much. Today is Monday, May the 6th, and it is a particularly happy, some way stressful kind of day for me because tomorrow Elizabeth comes back home for a little while. She's going to be here with us about a month while she finishes the preparations for her wedding, and which finalizes in her celebrating her wedding here on the island. And so she'll be here for a while, and we've got a lot of things to catch up on, talk about, share, and maybe, who knows, we'll even get a podcast in between. But just the fact that she is coming back for that wedding also has us a little bit on nerves here, trying to get in all of those final preparations that need to be done, especially since I'm still working, and so this is also the end of the semester for me. This week, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, is my final class day, where it ends with the last partial exam of the semester, and that is stressful for students, but it is also stressful for professors because, believe it or not, we actually want our kids to pass. And so, depending on how well they are doing their preparations, well, that will give us the final outcome, but unfortunately, we won't know until tomorrow. That is not the last thing they need to do for the semester. There's still final exams in a week and a half, so it's a stressful time. A lot of things need to get done, and so we're on a timeline here where everything's got a spot and has to be done at a certain time. So I'm trying to get this podcast in between all of this, because it is so much easier to take 20 minutes out of my job and upload the podcast from the university than it is to upload it from here, from home, because here it will take me between 10 and 12 hours to get the podcast up. So it's doable. I can leave it uploading during the night, and if the connection doesn't fail and I'll wake up and nothing will be done, then it still might even have a couple hours to go. So I want to try and get this done today. I want to try have it go smoothly from one topic to the next. I don't want to have to do a lot of editing because there are still several things to do around the house in preparation for Clarissa's visit, and also from my actual work and pay job, right? So, as usual, I am going to begin with the part of the podcast where I talk to you about what I am wearing, which I have just recently changed the name of this segment to Walking the Talk, because I believe that if I'm going to sit here and preach to you for somewhere close to an hour about what I do in terms of crafting, about what things I have made, then I should be able to use those things and not just put them to a side and never use them again. So I have separated this segment in which I show you things that have reached the end of the line. For one, things that are finished. If they're wearable, I will wear them. If not, I will simply present them in the next segment. And so I am going to share with you today what, if you are a returning viewer, will recognize as my peplum and lace top. It was a top that I've been working on. We are now in May, so somewhere between March and April because I was working on it in order to have it as an entry for the Vintage Mal that Elizabeth of the Crochet Cakes podcast is hosting on her channel. And just recently she mentioned that she was going to extend the Mal so for another month or so. So well, if I had known that back then, I might not have hurried through it so much. But it is also good to get things done. I mean, I really am not a fan of having projects on my hooks or on my needles over a long period of time because it puts them in danger of never getting finished. And I am the type of person that I am very uneasy with things that I start and do not complete. It just works on my mind, and it's not easy for me to live with that. So this is my lace and peplum top. It was a top that I started a while back, and it is from Inside Crochet number 42, I believe. It is a pattern by Simone Francis. She is a designer who has published many patterns, garments, and such in different magazines. So some of you might have heard of her. And this, most of my experiences with patterns that are published in magazines is that they tend to have errors, not necessarily errors by the designer, but sometimes errors of omission by, I don't know, I guess maybe the editors of the magazine when they try to cut things out to save space and they just didn't realize that what they cut out was very important in order for the reader to follow the pattern. But this one was not that way. My experience with this one was a very good experience. I think the instructions were complete. I don't think they were missing anything. It was very easy to follow. Anything that I did wrong, it was because either I misinterpreted the pattern or I was trying to make changes. For example, if you remember this, if I were to put on the back side, it has a seam down the back, as I have told you that after I got through the yoke, I just didn't like the seam there because it wasn't a straight seam. I hadn't provided for the fact that it would be traveling because we're using half double crochets. So I moved the seam to the side and was able to get it straight, and I liked it better there. If I were to do the pattern again, I would try and first of all apply techniques to keep my seam straight, and second of all the same, move it to the side as soon as possible. I also extended the sleeves a bit because I did not want, it had simply the cap sleeves that you're left with once you finished a yoke that is worked top down and in the round. So I am not that type of person. I am at a point where I don't really like to show off my arms too much because I'm too lazy to do the work that has to be done so that my arms could still be looking attractive at this age. So I like to bring my sleeves down a bit. I didn't actually bring it down as far as I had originally thought. I guess that was just because time was running short for the mal and I wanted to get it done before the 28th, so I didn't add them as much. I could have also added an additional row or two of the gray, which is the contrasting color here, because I had left over, but I didn't. I left it at 1. And so I am going to put in a short video now that will kind of give you a look of the whole peplum top so that I don't have to stand up, move back, move the camera, etc. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you will agree along with me that it's a pretty nice top. Now, it's the kind of thing that either you like it or you don't, because either you like the peplum style or you don't. So maybe even if you don't like it, you might agree that it looks nice. It's a pretty make. Not something I would wear, but it is pretty. But in my case, I am a big fan of peplums. I do like the style, and I would have them in all sizes, shapes, and colors. One of the issues with the pattern that I found, well, I'm sorry, it wasn't an issue with the pattern. It was an issue with me. I had the experience of Elizabeth making a pattern from a vintage magazine, another peplum. I don't know if you remember Elizabeth from Crochet's Cake peplum top that she made a while back. And I had found that one was a bottom up. So you did the bodice first from the bottom up, and then you added the peplum after. And I had found that their peplum was too short. I didn't like how short the peplum was. It could have also been because Clarissa wasn't reaching the row gauge of the pattern. I don't know. But with that experience in mind, I wanted to be sure that this peplum didn't start too high above the waist. But I miscalculated, and then I brought it down too low. And so I ended up the day or two before the mal was supposed to be over, the finishing date. I ended up ripping it all back, and there were about 10 rows of peplum. I ended up, and the peplum is very wavy, and so there's a lot of yarn there. And so I ended up frogging all that and redoing it. But I still, if you ask me, I had already washed and blocked the garment. So if you ask me, I still feel that I didn't bring the bodice up to as high as I should have, because there's a lot of weight in this top at the bottom. So this is going to stretch. And knowing all of those things, I just should have. So what I have done is that when I wove, I didn't actually weave in I only had one end left, which was the end from redoing the peplum, because all the others I had woven them in when I blocked the blouse. So I only had one end left over, and what I actually did was I took the darning needle, and I didn't weave it in, like going up and down, back and forth in different directions. I just went in one straight direction until my yarn was pulled up enough so that you can't see it, just in case I decide to rip it back and redo it more calmly, with more ease, and with less preoccupation at a future moment. So I hope you have enjoyed this peplum. It is, I really would have liked to have done it in a thinner yarn. I would have liked to have been able to find DK weight cotton. I don't mind the cotton and acrylic. I think that's good, because cotton would have been too not drapey enough. But I would have I'm thinking about finding a cotton silk. I am. But I want it to be thinner. So she had 138 yards to every 50 grams, and this one had 127. So it was a bit thicker, and that thickness, I can feel it. It makes it heavy, and it just makes me wonder. It looks a little ropey still, so it just makes me wonder what it would look and feel like if I had actually done it in a different blend, and a bit thinner. Not a lot, but a bit thinner, because this, as is, it probably would need a blouse under it. I haven't worn one because it's too hot today, and then I wouldn't have been able to use it for this whole podcast. So I do have a Ravelry page open for this if you want more details about the changes that I made, and if you want to see other photos that have not been included in this podcast. So in addition to that, I am wearing these pearl earrings, because what else could go with a peplum top but pearls? And so yes, these were I also put together. I mean, with this type of beading, you don't actually, I mean, I didn't make them, but the beads are purchased. They're freshwater pearls, and I do believe that the findings, the hook is also purchased. So what is put together are the loops and the dangle. And this is actually it's a set, and it's a favorite of mine because I love pearls. So that's walking the talk for today. I'm sure I will be able to use maybe even the same outfit to work or something like that, where there's a bit of air conditioner, maybe not in the hot dead summer, because like I say, there's weight here. But I am happy with the top, and I know I will get use out of it. So moving along, let's see what other projects I have pressed on with and can share with you. I think I was at a position where most of what I had on my hooks I have already presented to you previously, but there was one thing that I had on my needle, not my knitting needle, but my felting needle, before I left to my trip to Spain, because it was nearing Easter and I wanted to get some felting done. I shared with you a Fabergé egg, but I was working on a bunny. I bunnied that. I believe I was going to put into this cracked egg. And so the egg is wet felted. I have followed the instructions provided by the Living Felt on their page, livingfelt.com. They have instructions for creating these eggs, these broken eggs. And it's got a little bit of crochet around it. If I had finished it before, I would have also included it in our mal on this channel, the Harmony Mal, in Harmony Mal, but I didn't, so I didn't put it there. But actually, the final touch of the crocheting around, on the instructions, they tell you to mattress stitch it, but I didn't want to mattress stitch it, so I had this yarn that had been gifted to me by Charlie of the Love Charlie podcast. She hasn't podcasted in a while, but I think she still has her Instagram page open. It's 85% acrylic and 15% other fibers. And instead of being plied or combed or twisted, this is like a chain. I don't know. My camera's having difficulty showing it, but I'm sure you all have seen this type of yarn. It looks like it's crocheted. So I used that, and it actually was a very good addition because it added sturdiness to my very wobbly egg, which, if you remember, well, I don't even remember if the last time I presented it, but the problem with my egg was that I didn't have enough fiber, and I had chosen a really big plastic egg to use as the base that put inside and to felt around it, and so I didn't have enough fiber here. And so I found that my egg was very thin. See it? We can see the inside color. Well, he might not stop for a while because we've got a neighbor that walks his dog up and down, and at this time of day, and my dog does not like that dog, and I just, it's very hard. Sometimes he's just all day barking after you've seen that dog once. So I'm just going to go on with it, and we'll see. Hopefully he'll stop barking at some point, or my voice will be loud enough that I can cover up the noise that he's making. So I just wanted to show you my felted rabbit, which, if you remember, at the last time I showed it to you, I believe I only had a head. And I also believe that I was talking about it looked like an old man's face. I don't know. It's some character from the TV. Maybe it's Elmer from the Bugs Bunny show or something like that. It looked like something other than a bunny. Since I have tried to I added more bulk to the cheeks, and I lifted the nose up higher. I don't know if that has fixed it, but well. The thing about felting is that if you don't felt it completely, you can always come back later on and make slight changes, like take a break from it and make slight changes later on. So putting this together, I have used two versions. There was a version, and I will include in the show notes the links to this, because there was a version online for making an Easter bunny, but that was a really tough looking Easter bunny, and he actually had a more realistic look to him. This one is more of like a comic-like bunny, and so I don't know if that's what I was going for. I don't know if that's what actually I wanted, but that's what I got. And so it was from this book I have showed you before. I'll just give you a last look so you can compare what I did to the book. How about that? So, yes. So that was my Easter bunny, a little bit out of phase here with the holidays, but I hope you'll forgive me. I did want to share it with you because it was something that I started on a previous podcast and wasn't able to finish in the timeline that I had wanted to because of the fact that we left for a trip. Okay, so that was the end of the line for those two things, for the lace top and for the bunny. I think it's the end of the line for the bunny. And so I have since pressed on. Forgive me, I think I mentioned this was going to be the pressing, what projects I was pressing on with. But first of all, I wanted to mention those projects that reached the end of the line. And now I'm going to move on to the segment that talks about those projects that I am still working on, what we call my works in progress. And so I have a couple of them. One of them is the Jemima sock that, oh, I can't remember anymore when I started it. It must have been way back, maybe November or something like that, because that pattern has been out for a while. I started it and I had made a mistake in the sock, so I had to rip back. And whenever that happens in knitting, since knitting is for me such a process to rip back, well, I get kind of demotivated, and I just didn't want to carry on. So this is what I had from this sock. And what I did was, instead of continuing with this sock, I just decided to start a new one. And I placed a little marker there to distinguish between the two of them. And so I just decided to make a new sock. Not a new one, but the second one. So I don't get second sock syndrome. And so remember that one of the problems was that I could not remember how I had done the toe. And now that I look at them, I can tell that one toe is actually longer than the other. I guess it was kind of on purpose, because when I looked at this one, when I looked at, I'm sorry, I got distracted here. When I looked at this one, I thought the toe was too long. I said, Jesus, I really made a long toe for that. But when I measured it, it was 2 inches. So when I was doing this one, I decided to just stop when I reached I have 60 stitches on this. I just decided to stop when I reached 60 stitches. Because crochet stitches are a bit bigger, I find, than my knitting stitches, I only have 60 stitches on the toe. And then when I pick up the stitches to start my knitting, on that first round, I add the 4 stitches, 2 on each side. So instead of having 30 on each side of the magic loop, I have 32 on each side, because I feel that my knit socks, I need to have 64 stitches. So this has 64 stitches. The toe, this toe I am calling my duck's beak toe, because, and I actually think I'm going to do a series on it, on what happens with a toe. I started out here with 9 stitches, and then as I went around, I picked up on the first round 9 on each. I started out with 9, then you get 9 on each side, which is 18, and then from there on, I wanted to increase 6. I wanted to increase 6 and then rest, and do a round that didn't have any increasing in it. An increased round and a non-increased round. On every increased round, I increased 6, but those 6 I increased at the same 6 spots around the toe, and so it ends up looking like this beak here. Maybe be a fish's, maybe be a fish mouth. But since these are Jemima socks, I call them my duck beak socks, my duck beak toe. But I'm thinking that you'll get different shapes. For example, if I increase at 3 at the same, but evenly, increase evenly at even intervals at 3 different points, I'll call it my triangle socks. If I increase at 4 different points, it might be a square sock at 5. I could call it my pentagon at 6. This would be my hexagon. I don't know. I'm going to try and see what each of those socks looks like. It is comfortable though. It doesn't bother me. And the connection, I have tried it on the connection. I don't feel the connection between the toe and the sock either, even though knit socks are crochet stitches are a bit, well, not a bit, we all know they are thicker than the knit version. So up to now, I think it's okay. I'm still not at a point where I can add the heel. I know I did not make the two toes the same, see? I didn't start out with the same amount of stitches. Because this first one, I was using stitch markers to make the places where I was going to increase, but then, oh, it was a pain having to take out the stitch marker and put it back in. And on the second one, I decided I was just going to wing it and use counting. Just go to a peaceful place and count. The first round, I wanted to increase every, I wanted 6, so I wanted to increase every 3 stitches. Then I rested on a non-increase round. The next round, I was going to increase every 4 stitches because I was going to have 24 around, etc. So that I would always have 6 points to increase at, and it was a lot easier because there was no moving around the stitch markers. It was a lot quicker. I just had to be sure that I was somewhere where I wasn't going to be interrupted and I could do that continuous counting without being interrupted. So they're basically at the same spot right now. And the way I think I am going to continue is I'm going to do one pattern repeat on this one pattern repeat on this one pattern repeat on this one. I'm going to go back and forth so that I carry them along the same and I can reach the heel at the same moment. And so those are the Jemima socks. I have no idea when they'll get done. With knitting, it is so, for me, it is so unpredictable because I can get frustrated easily with it. I can tire easily of it, but at the same point, this drive that I have that I need to finish things, I want to see things finished. I don't like to see them hanging around for a long period. Well, that helps me to come back to it and come back to it. So this is one of the projects that I believe I carried on from last year. I'm finally getting around to it. I'm finally getting over my knitting sock anxiety, and I'm picking it up again. Something else that I am working on that I may or may have not shared with you is my spiked granny rectangle, where I am using mandala yarn. It's my mandala yarn, and it started out with these series of colors. So I've already gone through these first ones here. Mine started out at this light color here. So I've already gone through these light colors, and I'm onto the green. I'll move on to the darker green, and then onto the purples as I go on. Mandala, if you are unfamiliar, is a Lion Brand yarn. It is 100% acrylic. And I think it's a more or less a, what do you think it is, a worsted or a DK? In 150 grams, it's got 540. 590 yards in 150, so it might be DK. It doesn't feel to me to be a worsted or a light worsted, however. Well, this is what I have up to now. This is the back side of the granny, which just looks like any other granny, except for the fact that it is a rectangle, not a square, a granny rectangle. And so I decided to use up all the yarn and to see how large a rectangle I could get, to see if it could go, could become like a lap blanket or a lafghan, whatever you want to call it, lapghan, whatever you want to call it. And this is the front, where instead of using the regular stitch, I am using what I found on YouTube, just one of those videos that YouTube randomly, well not randomly, but recommends to you when you go onto your home page, and it was a spiked, because of these spikes, because you're going down. And it is a wonderful stitch. I really enjoy it. I really like it a lot. And I'm starting out small and getting longer, so the rounds are taking me longer now, and so I will have less of these colorful colors than I did these neutral colors in the middle. And we'll see how I am using a number 4 hook with this. I believe, I don't know if the YouTube video that I'm going to reference in the show notes is a tutorial for making a baby blanket. I don't know if they use Lion Brands, if they use this mandala, I can't remember, but it does use one of those whorls that changes colors also. And it does recommend the hook to be a little bit larger than the one that is recommended, because you have to do these long stitches to connect to the row below, and you don't want that to be too tight. So especially if you're a tight crocheter, you might want to use a larger hook. So I don't know how large this is going to be. I will let you know. And at the same time, I was working up a square, a granny square, a spiked granny square. See how it's just a granny square on the back, but on the front it's got all of these spikes. With this yarn that you're going to see a bit on this channel, because I bought loads of it for a course, a little crochet course that I was going to teach at the university, and then everybody decided to use their own yarn and not use this one. So I am trying to use it. I've had different ideas about using it over the period of time since I've had it in my stash, but just recently, you'll remember that this is one of the yarns that you can work pattern pooling with, because it pools. And I've got somewhere a version that I began, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next session. But this is simply in a square because I want to make a cushion. I want to make a cushion for my newly acquired crafting chair. And so I'm going to go around and around until I create the cushion on the front, and then I'll do something else with the back, something a little bit quicker, or maybe even a solid color on the back. So those are my 2 spiked granny projects. They were made to be like in between projects where I was doing the garments, and every once in a while I just either finished one or just didn't want to work on that one, and just something quick and easy, mindless. After you get used to the rounds and what you have to do on each round, it's pretty mindless, and it can be worked pretty quick. So that is the only other hooked project that I have begun. All of the other projects are in my crafty bubble at the moment, and my crafty bubble is a segment of this podcast where I share with you things that I would like to do in the future. Some of them I probably will never get around to, even though I'm going to say it here. Although I am pretty careful with saying I am going to do this unless I am actually going to do it. So I might get around to it. What I have in my plans currently are several things. First of all, what is my first of all? First of all, I have it in this. This is a medium-sized bag from Pearl and Plum on Etsy. It was an exchange that we did. Well, we gifted each other when we met up in, I believe it was in New Hampshire, some time back. Anyway, in here, in the in-betweens, right, when I'm looking for just randomly looking at things on Instagram and on Ravelry here, I saw this pattern. I have this okay. I saw this pattern that I wanted to hook up. It is the Monarch sweater. Got a lot of light coming in on the side, but if you remember that a time back, I felted my first Monarch butterfly for a gift exchange, for a swap exchange, and, well, for a swap, right? And I just find that beautiful. So it's a purchase, a paid for pattern. I paid for it. And I found in my stash this yarn. I want to do it in cotton. This is pure Pima cotton. And I have enough. I already checked. Cloudborne fibers. It doesn't have a written color. The color's a number. It's DK weight. And I have enough of that. And you need, that's the color for the base. And you need for the butterfly, I think it's an orange and a black and a white or a cream. And so I don't have black, but I've got these three. This is Stylecraft DK, Special DK. And so I've got these three. And this is going to be my sweater, and this is going to be my butterfly. So I think it's going to work out well. Since I'm making it up in cotton, I'm not sure if I am going to do the full length sweater that she has there. Probably not. I'll probably try and make it like this length, the sleeve like this length, something that I could actually wear around here. I mean, it's going to be cotton for the most part, is DK, but I could wear that to a air-conditioned environment for my work, and I think that would work out lovely. This is a paid-for pattern by Hailey Bailey, and it is on Ravelry. The Monarch. There we go. Oh, I just love it. I don't know if I'm going to love it when I get it done. It is made in pieces and then stitched together, and so I thought about maybe I'll start out with the back because the back doesn't have anything on it, and that'll be a breeze to get done. And then maybe I'll do the sleeves and I'll leave the front part for last. But I really want to make this, and I hope that my color changing skills are up to it because it is a beautiful sweater. We spoke a while back that Clarissa is coming for her wedding, and though most of her wedding plans are being taken care of by a selected company, a selected business, there are some details that she needs to take care of herself. And recently, Emma Potter of Potter and Bloom released her ebook collection of patterns for this second period of the year. I don't know if she's going to be releasing them 3 or 4 times. I think it's 3 times a year she releases 3 patterns. And I purchased the ebook. It always, well, she talks about this on her latest podcast. So go to Potter and Bloom on YouTube and you can watch her latest podcast where she talks all about this ebook and the patterns that are included in it. So I don't want to say things incorrectly. You can just go and get the details from there. I'll just show you one of the patterns that I am planning on working on. And so she, in this ebook set, she has a clutch, she has a pair of knitted socks, and she has a shawl, a crochet shawl. I was thinking about things that I wanted to do for Clarissa Beth, and when I saw the clutch, I just saw it was a must. I thought about the wedding, and I thought about the fact that since they're traveling, most of the gifts that will hopefully, right, all of the gifts that they will receive will be cards, greeting cards with or without a gift. That's not the important thing. The important thing is that usually at weddings, you have like this envelope where you collect all of these greeting cards that you're receiving, and I wanted this clutch to be that envelope. I wanted it to be the place where Elizabeth could put all of these things that she'll be receiving, zipper it up, and have it as to a keepsake, memories of her wedding day. So this is the collection is called Hanging Rocks. This is the cover of the ebook. There you go. You can at least see a little bit better the clutch. It is not as large as I needed. I need it to be larger, so I'm going to have to extend the pattern. But I don't think it'll be a problem because it starts at the bottom and works its way up. So I think adjustments might not be too difficult. The most difficult thing might be calculating the amount of yarn you're going to need to get it done. But my idea was, I'll see if there's another one here. Yes, my idea was to make it in a white or a ivory sort of color. Well, that's the base that you're not going to see it anyway because it's on the inside. And then the ruffles are done through the posts, so I thought about the ruffles being done in different tones of off-white, pure white, silvery white, and the same using those colors to do the tassels. Or if Clarissa wants to break with the white and add her wedding colors, we could do that for the tassels also and make those the tassels in her wedding colors, which I believe is like a dusty blue and a sage green. So we could use that, and some gold highlights. We could use that there. So hopefully this is called the Shimla clutch. The Shimla clutch. And so you can read all about the history and the ideas behind the development of the design on her latest podcast on the Potter and Bloom channel. So go there and check it out. I think it's lovely, and I think it will be a lovely way to Emma and the host of the Potter and Bloom podcast, and Clarissa Beth, the host of Crochet Cakes. They have developed a distant friendship and virtual friendship, and so I think it'll be a way of having Emma with us on that day, having her presence with us. And so I'm very excited to make it, and I hope it comes out lovely. And even if it doesn't come out lovely, it'll be there. It'll be there for Clarissa Beth to remember, to keep all these memories and all the memorabilia of this special day for her. So that's in my crochet bubble right now, and hopefully my bubble will pop and I will be able to get it done in time. And I also wanted to share with you a small video of one of the gifts that I already received. You know that in the upcoming weekend in the US, Mother's Day is celebrated, and so my husband already gifted me, gave me his gift, and it is a crafting chair. It is behind me. You can see it's this nice blue turquoise color, but I wanted to do a video of it because it opens up and it's got space for storage and all that. This is the chair that my husband gifted to me for Mother's Day. Well, before Mother's Day, but it's a Mother's Day gift. And I wanted to share it with you because I think the color is fabulous. But in addition to that, the chair is special for the following reason. And it has space underneath for storage. In addition, it stretches out so it could become almost a bed for a small child. It doesn't have to go all the way back. So that's the fantastic chair that I got as a gift. And I'm thinking about my chair and how to make this corner prettier. I wanted to make I have requested a lamp to go at the back because this part of the room doesn't have as much light as it would need for a crafting corner. And I also want to make I also want to make a cushion or a couple of cushions for it. And if you'll remember a time back, I shared with you a project, a planned pooling project that I was just starting to play with, and I was using is it the Icelander? The Icelander, the same yarn that I showed you previously, the Icelander yarn from Red Heart. I was using this one for that project, and it actually goes very well now with this corner. So that project that I begun, I think I'm going to turn it into a wall hanging with frills and all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to put it on this part of the wall over here. And then for the actual, I've shown you this picture in the past. For the actual chair, I want to make those cushions. So I need to start over. Well, I'm not going to start over on any of these because I have lots of this yarn. I can take a new skein and start this project. because I need to go through 2 sequences of the color. This is a free pattern from Red Heart, and it's just redheart.com, the Argyle Plant Pooling Cushion. And let's see if I can show it here. Because I don't want to have to put up and edit and put up the little titles. Plant Pooling Argyle Pillow from redheart.com. And the yarn is Icelandic. And they have a gray or a charcoal, a gray and a charcoal also from Red Heart for the back of the cushion. The back of the cushion isn't made in the same color. I'll show you the back of the cushion here. There are 2 options for placing buttons at the back of the cushion. So either at the top or in the middle. Either is very cute. I think I'm going to go for the middle. And so I need to use a new skein so that I can go through 2 sequences of the color changes, keeping track of the amount of stitches in each color, and continue that sequence. They use moss stitch here, so that should work up pretty quick. It's a little quicker than just single crochet. And well, that's another project that I have in my crochet bubble for the upcoming weeks. Don't know when I'm going to have time to work on all of this, but planning is important. Keeping up with what is the next project that I want to complete is always good, so that we can keep our projects, keep our crafting going. I just wanted to check here if I have got Ravelry. Yes, I do. Open here on the pad, so I can go to the group. So that I can go to the group and share with you some of the projects that were entered for the My In Harmony make-along, which has concluded. It ended the 28th of April, and I considered extending it, but I decided not to, because I know, especially by the amount of projects that were entered, which were very few. We had 10 projects, and I'm not sure if all of them had more than one craft. Because some people didn't put up details in the chatter about the crafts they were using. Other people did, but some people didn't. So there's a couple of projects that I'm not sure if they're using more than one craft, but I know that for most of us, or for most of you, I should say, it is not common to your crafting to use more than one craft. Most people are multi-crafters, but separate. I can knit, I can crochet, I can felt, I can weave, I can spin, but I do it all separate. Knowing this, knowing that it is not common to do this type of thing, then what was the purpose of extending it if it had been over 30 days since a project had been published? So I just decided to end it there. We had 2 months to make a multi-crafted project. And we did have probably about 8 or 10 participants, and from there we got 10 projects. And I did a random selection. I was number 1. There were 14 other posts because some people did more than one project, and so I have done a random generator selection between 1 and 15, and the number that came out is 14. And so project number 14 was this tea cozy. Very pretty. I looked her up. It's Hook Loop Knits. So Hook Loop Knits, you are the winner of this podcast. Hook Loop Knits has a, I looked her up, and she has a website where she actually makes these tea cozies and she sells them. So if you're interested, you can go visit it. So Hook Loop Knits, you are the winner of our giveaway. So thank you for taking time to participate. We are a small channel, and so it is not part of our expectations to get hundreds of people to participate. But maybe as we grow, well, this type of thing will become more common, because when you're a small podcast, all of any expenses that you go through for the podcast are on you, as any expenses that all of you have to go through for your crafting is on you. You usually don't have sponsors. And so one of the topics that came up on Instagram in the previous weeks has been the topic of the idea that crochet yarn and crochet patterns can be available for anyone, and no matter what, how can I say this? No matter what your financial state is. I mean, we all have ups and downs in our finances over the years, and if you are an ongoing crafter, or even if you are a beginner crafter, one of the difficulties of beginning to craft is it is an expensive, or it can be an expensive craft to practice. And so there is a lot of, I wouldn't say pressure, but there is a lot of motivation in the crochet, or in general crafting community, to spend. I make up a project, I show you the yarn, I talk about where I got it from, and I guess all either the yarn spinners or the yarn dyers or the yarn companies, they're all receiving free publicity from us, and with the expectation that this will increase their sales. And so even though I don't want to sell anything particular to you, when I tell you I made this in Valley Yarns, the Hawthorne range, and if you like it and you think, oh, that is a yarn that I would like to try, well, it's obvious that you're going to go and try and purchase that. And maybe that is not necessarily what occurs on this channel, because we are a small channel, but there are channels out there that have thousands, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 subscribers and viewers even. And so it is obviously they will have a greater impact for publicity for yarn. I mean, it's a cycle. If I want to produce a pattern, I need yarn to experiment with that pattern. And if I need you as a yarn provider, you need pattern makers, because people will try your yarn out. Obviously, well, they will experiment with the yarn if somebody who is well known in the community, who has respect in the community, has tried out that yarn for some type of project. So it's like, you know, it's an economy that we all help each other. And so although I don't believe that I have yet positioned myself in that economy, because I don't make money from what I do here, it's just as yet it is still a hobby, but I think that one of the things that helps out here, if you're not in a position where you can give away yarn to somebody else, or you're not in a position where you can even buy yarn for yourself, one of the things that we can do is watch podcasts and or follow Instagram and participate in giveaways. And if you participate in podcasts, if you watch and listen to podcasts, and if you participate in giveaways, you are indirectly helping to move free yarn and free patterns along. Because on larger podcasts than this one, people, if you watch them, you notice that they sometimes have other community members donate yarn, donate project bags, donate patterns, and so this is a way to get free patterns and free yarn out to people that don't necessarily have the financial ability to purchase them for themselves. So if you have the chance, participate in a make-along or a knit-along or a crochet-along. If there are prizes that have been donated, it's a good way for somebody who maybe has never had the financial ability to purchase a yarn or a pattern from a particular designer to get those, to get that and to feel more completed and to feel at a better point in their crafting. So that's my feel on this. I hope I haven't offended anybody and that you will just respect it as what it is, my opinion. I mean, we can all have our different opinions on this. And I want to thank you again for being with me today. In the meantime, while we meet again, I am hoping for another 2 weeks, but with the end of the school year and Clarissabeth's wedding coming along, I'm hoping not to miss the mark, but it might happen. I'm hoping specifically not to miss it because the end of the month will be harder, because that is Clarissabeth is married on the 31st of May, so it will be much more difficult towards the end of the month podcast. But I'm just going with the flow. If I can, I will, and if I can't, I won't. So until we meet again, there are some of the things that you could do. You could contact me via email. I have a specific email for this podcast, mindandmuse@gmail.com. There's no crafts on that one because it was created a long time ago. mindandmuse@gmail.com. I also have a blog to which I publish every month. I'm trying to keep that once a month publication going up, and I have already published this month. And this month I am talking about 5 tips for gifting your handmade items. So you can go and check that out. That's at mindandmusecrafts.com. And you can comment below, and I will always try and comment back to you. You can also comment or message me on Instagram or on Ravelry, and I check out all the corners of the internet world every once in a while. So I think it's timely enough where you won't have to wait too long for a response. So keep in touch. Don't be a stranger. And until we meet again, keep yourself happy. And keep yourself healthy. Happy people and healthy people make the best crafters. So keep yourself crafting, and we'll see each other again in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.